Hello, welcome back to my channel. It has been forever, it feels like, since I've sat down to talk to you guys. It's only been a couple weeks, but you know. So since I've been gone for a couple weeks now, I wanted to really come back with a bang, and I think you guys are really going to enjoy this video. So as you can tell from the title, I am going to be talking to you guys about my experience working at Saks Fifth Avenue. Yes, the Saks Fifth Avenue on Fifth Avenue in New York City, the flagship, the one they're all named after. It was an experience, and I'm so excited to share that journey with you today. Now, a quick disclaimer before we get into the video. I do just want to make it crystal clear that these are simply my opinions and my experience working with Saks. I am not here to drag the company. I'm not here to do any of that sort of stuff. I want to remain as neutral as possible. So these are, again, just my opinions and solely my experience. Quickly before we jump in, I want to give you an outline of what we're going to be talking about today. So I want to discuss with you guys the pay structure at Saks Fifth Avenue, the kind of people you may work with, the kind of people I worked with, the day-to-day operations, what it looks like working in the building, and then finally why I left. So if any of that sounds interesting to you, make sure to keep watching, give this video a like, and subscribe to my channels for more related content. Without further ado, let's get into it. So this is actually one of my favorite manifestation stories I have to date, and I want to just preface this whole video with kind of the story of how I got the job. So I won't go into like the interview specifics or anything. I can do that in a different video if you would like, but basically, if you've watched my How I Moved to New York City video, you will know that I came here without a job. Like, I had signed my lease and everything, and I had been trying to get a job for a long time before I actually moved here, just to kind of add that extra layer of security for myself, but it didn't happen. And while I was in the airport, I had my one-way flight to New York from Wisconsin, and as I was sitting in the airport, I got a call from Saks Fifth Avenue. They had reviewed my resume and application that I had sent in who knows how long prior, I don't remember, but the lady was super nice and said, "We would love to invite you in for an in-person interview." And it was just the coolest thing because I was literally in the airport, like there's no going back. It was really cool, and so I ended up going to the interview and I got the job. And so within 3 days of living in New York City, I had a job. And I would love to talk more about my favorite manifestations and that sort of stuff in a different video, but just to preface this one, I thought that was a fun story to share because it's so special to me, and it drives home the point that you should always bet on yourself because you've got this. But with that being said, I want to talk about the pay structure at Saks. So if you are unaware, Saks Fifth Avenue, and actually a lot of the big like luxury department store retailers like Neiman's, Barney's, etc., work off of a draw versus commission pay structure. And most people don't know what this is. I didn't know what this was when I started. I researched it a little bit and it didn't sound too bad, but it's not great. So basically, what draw versus commission is you make minimum wage in your job. Okay, so you're always guaranteed that minimum wage paycheck. However, to make anything beyond minimum wage, like you hear about commission and all this sort of stuff, and you typically think like people in these positions are just rolling in the money because they're selling these high price ticket items like $3,000 bags, $2,000 jackets, like $5,000 shoes, whatever. But that's not the case. So when you're working on a draw versus commission pay structure, you have a certain weekly goal, like a dollar amount that you have to meet in sales before you start making any money from commission. And so for me, as a personal example, I was only working part-time. So I worked 3 to 4 days a week, and my sales goal each week was $10,000. So I had to sell $10,000 worth of merchandise before I could start making any commission. And so take that for what you will. Maybe $10,000 seems like an easy goal to you. Others, it may be really shocking. And I mean, I worked in the summer. I was hired in June of last year, so June of 2019. And if you work retail, you know that the summer months are so dry. Like it's kind of a dead zone in the world of retail. So once you meet your sales goal for that week, you then can start earning commission, like I said. And for me personally, and for a majority of the floors and departments at Saks, that commission is 6% of whatever you sell. So say you sell a $2,000 bag, you would make $120 from that sale. And so that $120 would be added to your minimum wage base pay. Okay? Now, here's where it gets a little like, So if you don't meet your sales goal one week, say you sold $7,000 and you were supposed to meet $10,000, that $3,000 that you didn't make gets tacked on to next week. So the next week, you have to earn $13,000 before you start making any money. So, and this was a big reason why I left. We'll talk about that more at the end of the video, but the pay structure is atrocious, like in my personal opinion. And I know that this is how these luxury department stores operate because this is how they can force their employees to bring in revenue for the company. Makes sense, but if you're a newbie and you don't have like your own client book made up, or you're not selling to your friends or family, people you know, your clients, then it's really difficult, especially at first, to get the ball rolling. On top of that, I was working on the ready-to-wear floor. So there are 11 floors at the Saks Fifth Avenue flagship in New York. Each one is an entire city block large. Like, it's a huge building. And so I was working on the ready-to-wear floor, which is, to put it best, it's like the cheap section of Saks. So it's not like your Gucci, Fendi, Prada, like all of those are on separate floors. The ready-to-wear floor has your lesser expensive brands like Alice and Olivia, Love Shack Fancy, Cinquecep. And so keep that in mind. Every week, if you have that $10,000 sales goal and you're only selling like $200, $300 items at a time, it can get pretty difficult. I learned a lot in my time there. I learned why I got the job so easily. Like, obviously, if you knew all the ins and outs and like the caveats and everything, probably wouldn't accept this job super quickly, but nevertheless, it was fine. I want to talk about the people, because the people, your coworkers, not like your customers, that was a whole different thing, but your coworkers can make or break your experience. And I'm sure you've all had that experience where you may have loved a job, but the people were giving you a hard time or whatever. So at Saks, some of the people I worked with were incredible. Some of them were super nice, very caring, compassionate people, and I am still in contact with them today. But I wouldn't say that was the norm. So again, it all boils down to the pay structure. So with this kind of cutthroat pay structure that they have, where you're not guaranteed to get anything above minimum wage that week, and especially in the summer where sales were more difficult to come by, it created a very toxic environment. I saw all sorts of different drama in my 3 short months that I was there. I had sales of mine that were sabotaged. Like, I would be working with a customer and then have someone sweep in at the last second and ring up their sale so I wouldn't make any money from it. I saw lots of backstabbing, lots of bickering, lots of talking behind the back, lots of just it felt like we were in high school, and I hate that shit. Like, oh my god, keep me as far away from that petty nonsense as you can. Like, I don't want anything to do with it, especially in a working environment. We are all adults. Like, I can't with that. I cannot. So I would love to do a video on story times about that if you guys would be at all interested. I'm gonna save it for a different time though, because once I get going down that road, there's no looking back. But like I said, there were really good people mixed in there too. And one of my favorite things, especially towards the end where I knew I was quitting and didn't really care, my favorite thing was just going to all the different floors and meeting people and, talking with them, learning about their experience there or their experience in New York, all sorts of things. Because remember, at this time, I had just moved here, fresh off the boat, completely new to the city. And so I didn't know anyone. I was trying to make friends too, because for a lot of us, that's where we make most of our friends, is at work, because that's where a majority of your life is spent. You're at work and then you come home and sleep and then you do it the next day. And so, yeah, my favorite thing was going and adventuring and talking to new people, exploring the different floors, familiarizing myself with the merchandise, getting comfortable going into places like Gucci, Louis, Fendi, all these, luxe designer stores that unless you're in a big metropolis, you don't really have access to. I had never seen these stores in person before. It was such a cool moment. But like any job, you have people you vibe with and you have people you don't. And I would just say there were definitely some attitudes with my coworkers, but I guess to be expected when you're working in a kind of pretentious type environment like that. Again, not bashing Saks at all. It is what it is. So moving on to the day-to-day, kind of what a typical day looked like for me, you were assigned one specific area on your floor. So for me, I was in the girly section, so I was around Love Shack Fancy, Ramy Brook, Alexis. Those were the main ones in my section, and you are only allowed to pick up customers in your area. So you can't go walk across the floor, see someone browsing and be like, hey, can I get a fitting room started for you? Because you just sabotaged someone else's sale then. And so this was a rule they tried to instill in us from the very get-go, in training and everything. And inevitably, people still would come and sabotage your sales, which sucked because that was rightfully your customer, if you will. But if you've ever been to a Saks Fifth Avenue and were just bombarded by sales associates asking if they can start you a fitting room or if you need help with anything today, this is why. It's the pay structure, and everyone is just trying and grabbing and trying to cling on to whatever they can, whatever money they can, because yeah, as fun as it is to like interact with customers and help style them and blah 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 blah, when you're working in such an intense environment with such an extreme environment with this kind of pay structure, you're more or less viewed as a dollar sign to the associates. So, but nevertheless, on the back end, once you started helping someone, if you pick them up in your section, you're free to move with them like throughout the store. You can go down with them to the first floor, pick out some bags, you can go to the second floor, etc., etc. And so a majority of the day was definitely spent like hunting down customers that you could help and then ultimately get that sale, which got pretty stressful and pretty just, I got over it really quickly, because if your whole day is spent just, oh my god, where's the next sale? Like who can I bring in and get that sale from? Like that's not a good mentality to be in all day, every day. On the flip side of that though, something that really helped me stay positive throughout the day was mornings. So we were usually pretty dead in the mornings for the first like 2 hours or so that we opened. And we were always encouraged, try on the clothing, have fun, like try things, see how they fit so that you can speak on the fit and the designer and all of that. So every morning I would just go through and more or less shop the store and then try everything on, and it was just cool. Like it was cool trying on things from brands that I had never been able to try on before. And so mornings were fun, and then we got a little more serious in the afternoon then. Basically, it was just a glorified sales associate position, but it was really cool to work with the brands and all of that we were exposed to. So in regards to why I left, it was mostly because of the pay structure. So as I said, that draw versus commission structure creates a very stressful and toxic environment. And I was only there from June to September, and that was more than enough for me. I was done by that point. It was just the constant stress of, oh my god, am I gonna make enough money this week? Like, I have to pay my rent and minimum wage isn't gonna cover that. Like, just constant stress. And so pretty soon on, like I would say a couple weeks into my time there, I was already actively applying and interviewing other places. And so apart from the draw versus commission pay structure, I would say the coworkers also played a pretty big role in why I decided to leave, because like I said, some of them were great. I can probably count on one hand how many were decent, but the rest of them just, maybe you're different, but I cannot stand to be in that kind of catty, immature environment. Like, no, find something better to do. So I didn't last long, which is fine by me because I got a job really quickly with Rent the Runway, which that's a story I could tell. Yeah, that was quite the experience. But I was picked up by Rent the Runway and I started there, and that was just a normal hourly paid job, no commission structure. It was a lot more stable. It was full-time finally. It got me benefits, all that sort of stuff. So that was my time with Saks Fifth Avenue. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope it was informative in some way. If you did, again, be sure to give it a like and feel free to subscribe to my channel for more fashion content, business content, New York content, all that sort of stuff. And if you have any questions for me, if you would like to see a follow-up video to this one, please let me know in the comments below and I would be happy to make that for you. But as always, my social links will be left in the description box below if you are interested in following me on anything. But until then, I will see you in my next video.